Hello and welcome back to Triple F Shooting. Today we're going to be talking about the Smith & Wesson number 3 second model Schofield. So not to be confused with the number 3 first model American that we looked at last time, which that's right here. So this pistol is available from Cimarron. It is more widely available than the American by a long shot. It's been around a lot longer, actually offered from a few different companies in a few different calibers, all the way down to 38 Special, 40 or 440, 45 Colt, all those popular cowboy action calibers. This one is the 7-inch barrel. It's a little bit shorter than the American. It is also available in the 5-inch barrel. Most of the time you're going to run into the 7. Both are historically correct. So what we're going to do today is just jump right into the shooting and essentially see if all of the upgrades from the first to the second model are actually viable. So first off, I can do that with my thumb up here, which we'll get a closer shot at later. I'm going to load up. We're at the same range on the same targets. I didn't even wash my clothes for you people, just to keep it authentic. I'm sure most people in the West were stinky. So, load 5, land on my empty chamber. So what I'm going to do, out of the same holster, same everything, same timepiece, same distance, same targets, yay. I'm going to draw and fire one shot 5 times, again testing to see if my new and improved sight system and new and improved grip geometry speed me up at all. So I'll have to look at my numbers. I'll probably just pop it up somewhere like here and show you what the average time for the number 3 first model was, and then we can get a direct comparison. So make sure I'm in random start. Probably. Sure. Okay, here we go. So again, we're shooting pretty much cold, so if I suck, it's not my fault. Alright, so that's already a little faster at a 187. We're going to do that 4 more times. .181 and a gnat in my mouth. 195, that was all draw issue. .193, last one. 186, and you can see on the target I kind of winged him a little bit. He's vibrating around, so I think that was maybe a smidge faster on the average time. One of the major upgrades to this pistol, as I unload it, is the fact that the sights are far superior to the other model. Again, I'll get a lot closer up on that for you guys later in the video, but basically instead of floating toothpicks, I have a large V-notch gutter, so my eye can pick that sight up a lot faster. I don't know if it's better for target shooting, but as far as like a combat shooting where you have moving targets very quick, that kind of thing, definitely better. So now we're going to go to the next segment. I'm going to shoot the first target and last target, and basically again we're going to test the action, the new grip geometry, so see how fast I can run the hammer and access my next target. I have improved sights, a little better grip angle, see what it does. So going for the far left and far right. That was 291. I have 2 more of those. That's 263. I'm going to get the empties out of here. If I can clock the cylinder correctly, I will just have Those last 2 shots on this draw. So it's 268 and a big fat miss. So, all right, so I missed on the last one. We're not going to dwell on it though, a little, but we're ready for a reload drill now. So I have my gun loaded up with 4 empties and 1 live round, so that when I cock the hammer and shoot, that'll give me my last shot, so to speak. I'll crack it open, put 5 rounds in it, just like the last drill, and go back, fire 1 shot to get my time. The number 3 first model American, I got 17 seconds, so we're going to see if the upgrades to this gun, remember that latch system is off 1 thumb rather than 2-hand deal, so if I can make that work better, we'll see if that matters. I don't hypothesize that it's going to be a huge deal. We're going to find out. So I got my timer, same distance, we are all ready to go. Here we go. That worked, except I think I missed. Rounds. I don't like it. So that was 19 seconds because I flubbed a little bit after missing again because now I'm dwelling on it. But first shot doesn't matter. I missed, I sucked, I had to reload, and I hit him on the second one. So 19 seconds, a little bit on me. Might redo it, but that sort of is like cheating. So take it for what it is. I'm going to unload this thing in a safe direction so that I can wave it around a whole bunch. So, gun's clear and all that, yay. We're actually starting to get a little bit of smoke built up, dirtying the gun up, nice and purty. If I was shooting black powder, this thing would be absolutely filthy, but I'm not that manly. I don't have that much time. That's a lot of cleaning. So, and I guess that actually will bring us to one cute little point I didn't really think about until just now. These are replicas. When you shoot black powder, they actually have a mild difference in the frame. I believe it's a lack of a gas ring. So black powder does not run really well in these guns. So if that is something that's going to bother you, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, with the handling characteristics on this upgraded model Schofield, I still have to ride the gun really high just to be able to reach that hammer. You can actually see that it's upswept quite a bit, and we'll get more close-up comparisons later, but still have a really high ride, meaning I'm still coming in at the trigger at quite an angle. The grip angle is better. It's not quite so severe. The American kind of feels more like a 90-degree, whereas this is a gentle slope. It's a little closer to like what you'd find on a Colt style. The sights are where this gun shines. So apparently I'm not showing that off very well today, but you have a large V. We'll get some close pictures when we go to the tabletop, but you have a very large V. You can pick them up very quickly. Maybe that's part of my problem. I'm pushing a little bit faster because I can see so much better, and getting a perfect sight picture isn't happening because we're at about 15 yards. Most cowboy action shooting with a handgun's much closer than that, so take that for what it's worth. But as far as handling with this gun, it is a little nicer. You can definitely do that one-handed reload. If you do it hard enough, you do launch all your rounds out. I'm not going to do that a ton because I don't know anyone that works on this stuff personally, at least not these. Know a few people that will work on a Colt single action style, but not anyone that works on that. So I'm not going to be ripping this extractor through all that often and potentially causing myself issues. So take that for what it is. Alright guys, so we can't get too far in the video without going over the wonderful holster. Again, JM leather. After I got this guy, played way too much Red Dead Redemption 2 and decided I had to have a cross draw holster in the same style. So he made me an 1870s-ish Cheyenne style, just like the other one. This one he didn't have quite the Same roughed up leather, but very similar color and everything, very nice looking. And this holster is made specifically for a Schofield revolver, and real quick, I will show you why. So, all clear, super. Now, on the holster, there is a very deep scoop on the front end, so that when you holster and that lip comes up, it does not impact and push that latch. Now, whether or not that would actually cause any kind of issue, I have no clue. But it's nice to know that I don't have to worry about, you know, ramming the gun home into the holster and ending up with some kind of weird half-cock driven by being pushed on. So, since we're talking about that latch, we can get into the history of the gun a little bit. This revolver came about because of this revolver. Again, when we went over this in the video, the military liked this enough to purchase about 1,000 of them, making a US stamped one very, very rare. But they had some concerns with this, so yeah, no more of that. So 1875 rolls around, and a US cavalry officer named Major Schofield comes up with some of the changes that he wants Smith & Wesson to put to the revolver. Some of those changes come along in the differed grip angle. The opening latch is now a single-handed affair, and the sights are part of that latch, and they are vastly improved over that first model American. You lose about an inch of barrel length. I suppose that was to make it a little bit nicer out of the holster, but the biggest upgrade, in my opinion, would have been the caliber change. So we go from a heel-type bullet to a more standard, as you see there in the 45 Colt, standard loading with the lubrication down inside the casing, keeping everything nice, sort of like the Russians did with 44 Russian on that first model American. So with this revolver, the U.S. Army bought 8,000 of those guys. So you have a huge number change between 1,000 to 8. So they're actually willing to give this a go. That's pretty cool, but of course Smith & Wesson had to do their own thing and came out with 45 Schofield. Again, we'll get into the super details of that on the tabletop. I actually have some 45 Schofield, so that's pretty fun. It's sort of available, at least more available than 44 American ever would be. The problem with changing, so 1875, quick history lesson, in 1873 we picked up the 45 Colt, which is this dude, at least some variation of it. The single action Army Colt fired that gun. Smith & Wesson said, nope, we ain't gonna do it. Came out with 45 Schofield, which is a little bit shorter. 45 Colt will not chamber in an original Schofield revolver. When you are out on the prairies in a wagon train style logistics mess, you could see where that would create some ammo problems. Sometimes Schofield soldiers got Colt ammo and vice versa, meaning guys with Colts could shoot their ammo because even though it's shorter, it would still chamber. The guys with Schofields are totally screwed. So these guns really didn't live very long in the US military due to basically logistics nightmare. So that's kind of what killed this gun off. It sucks. If it hadn't happened, who knows, maybe this would have been the gun of the day and everybody would be running around wanting to collect 45 Schofields rather than single action Armies. Now, don't want to leave too much out. Most of the severe comparison, like very up close stuff, we're going to do on the tabletop.
Alright guys, put on those jammies and snuggle up. We are going to look at this thing fairly close. Just like we did with the American, you can see that the bluing is very nice. We have no shallow spots, anything like that. We have kind of the unlacquered wood grips that give just a little bit more feel, a little bit rougher in the hand, a little more grip on the gun. Still very smooth and slick, similar to what an original would be like. But you see the case hardening on the latch system is very nice. We have case hardening on the trigger guard, and we also have it up into the ratcheting system for the lug. Now, the markings on this gun are a little bit different than they were on the American, so we'll start on the billboardy looking side. The American does a really good job of kind of hiding most of this, but on the Schofield you do have a large down the side of the barrel Cimarron, Fredericksburg, Texas, and then Uberti in Italy. So there's where the thing is made. We have our Italian proof marks, and we also have our 45 Colt stamping that would have not been original. The original-ish marks are found in the patent date stamped on the lug in a similar position that they would have been on an original one. We also have the US marking in a similar space as they would have been on an original. And then we have this kind of fun little inspector's cartouche, and this one's dated at 1877. The design of this revolver, again, would have been 1875, but that's kind of a neat little add-on to make it look a little more authentic. Alright guys, we're going to do one more close-up to give you kind of an in-depth look at what is actually different between the first model American and the second model Schofield. Now, as much confusion as we can possibly add, these are still both Smith & Wesson number 3 revolvers. This is just the first and the second iteration of it. So let's get this guy out of the way real quick for a quick review. So on the American, we have a fairly severe grip angle. Our latch system, we didn't get a great look at this in the first video, but you can actually see the hammer holds it in place after you've fired. The latch system requires 2 hands. I have to reach up and physically pry this open. We're all clear. And the extractor lug is fairly long. Our sight on the front actually stands up on top of a flat strap of the gun, and that's about where we can put this guy down. We do have a little bit different grip style here, where this is sort of humped up. Now, on the Schofield, like we were just talking, this is actually scalloped out on the grip rather than just humped over. But the Schofield, if you can't tell by the camera, actually has a 7-inch barrel rather than an 8. We also have a shortened extractor lug, which takes some of the weight off the front of the gun, not a ton, but a little bit. And then we have the less severe grip slope, which aids a little bit in reaching the hammer. You can also see that we have a little bit more upsweep on that hammer. Let's get this guy out of the way and we'll look at this a little bit closer. So the biggest difference is fairly obvious on this gun. You have a latch system that can be run with one hand, which is very cool if you happen to need to fire this from horseback or use it on a horse, which is kind of what we were trying to do with this particular gun. Part of that latch system changing, your rear sight is actually that latch. So let's get the hammer back. We're clear, so we can actually see our sights. These sights are a huge improvement, in my opinion, at least for combat style shooting or speed shooting on moving targets. You have a large gutter cut into that, or a large notch, I should say, V style, and then your front sight is very similar to the first, but it's actually riding down in a gutter, so it's a little lower to the bore, but that creates a sight picture that is much quicker to pick up, at least in my opinion. I don't know how much it actually translates to speed of fire, at least in my hands, but in theory, this is a better combat sighting system, especially for 1875. That's fairly nice. The only other major difference between this revolver and the first model, so we have our gentler slope on the grip, our big deal latch change. The last thing that we really need to hit is this guy. So this revolver, when it came out, was designed for 45 Schofield rather than that 44 American round. So the biggest differences between those two rounds, we've gone to a 45 caliber projectile rather than 44. Our lube rings are down inside of the brass, so that makes it a much, well, maybe more reliable cartridge. I don't have anything that can foul up the lube on the outside of the bullet. We are still center fire, just like the American, but we've gained a little bit of weight in the projectile, and we've actually gone to a little bit more pop as well. So the American round would have had somewhere around 700 feet per second with a 200 to 205 grain bullet, I believe. The 45 Schofield is looking at a 200 to 230 grain, going around 800 feet per second. So I'm not entirely sure what the original military loading of this thing would have been. I need to do a little bit more research on that. I will post it in the comments if I can find it. But if we go to that 230 moving at 800 feet per second, you essentially have close to 45 ACP ballistics. The other very cool thing about this replica is I can shoot 45 Schofield in this gun. So here is a 45 Colt round. See if I can get them balanced out fairly close. So you can tell that we have a length difference. So 45 Colt, same diameter bullet, just a little bit more case length. We kind of have a 357 38 special thing going on here, where this round on an original would not have fit. You could only use 45 Schofield. So this replica, I can shoot 45 Colt or 45 Schofield if I've got an itch to be a little bit more historically accurate.
Okay guys, one really quick piece of history that I was going to forget and want to chuck this in. This gun, obviously, as we said, did not work out for the military due to logistical nightmares and all that good stuff, but it did work out for Wells Fargo. So when a lot of these guns in military service didn't meet the requirements, whatever you want to call it, Wells Fargo bought a crap load of them. Now, people have heard of Wells Fargo today. They are financial gurus. They help with investing, all that stuff. Back then, they kind of did the same thing where they'd transport money and everything else. So they bought a crap load of these guns, cut it down to a 5-inch barrel, and used them as kind of their protection for transporting money. So if you were to buy this gun, whether in the 7-inch barrel, which would be period correct for the cavalry, or the 5-inch barrel, you'd still be period correct for Wells Fargo. So kind of a neat little thing to note. When these went surplus, Wells Fargo picked up a crap load of them. So whichever one you buy, you are still historically sound. Big things to note are the 5-year difference and the few upgrades that they made. Now, I don't know how much that matters for someone like me shooting these two. We can kind of talk about the numbers that I got different. I was a little bit faster on average with this gun, but I also threw 2 shots because I might have been pushing myself a little too much, or maybe I could blame that nice gutter sight being a little bit faster to pick up, but maybe not giving me a perfect sight picture. So all in all, very cool gun. Most people know this gun and are aware of it far more than the first model American, but I still like this one better. It might just be because it's weirder, whatever that is, but you cannot go wrong owning one of these. Very cool piece of history, very fun gun to shoot if you're into movies. 310 to Yuma, Unforgiven, I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch. Those exist. So with that being said, I will see everyone later. Thank you again for watching Triple F Shooting.